The tide is beginning to turn. Something very positive is beginning to happen on this planet. Hi, I'm Saratoga Ocean. Welcome to my channel where I give you the knowledge you need to spiritually awaken and ascend with clarity and confidence. Something really positive is starting to happen on this planet. People everywhere are beginning to realize that fear is the biggest problem we have. This is really very profound because it means that we are actually ready to evolve at a much higher level. Now, if you've been following me and also the channelings that I've shared with you from Archangel Michael and from Telstar, you might have noticed that several times they have said that physically fighting against the controllers is not really the best way to go. I think I can explain to you what they meant by that. See, we have traditionally always gotten ourselves caught up in the wars and in the battles. We tend to invest all of our energy in who wins and who loses. But in the much bigger picture of evolution and ascension, that approach alone doesn't really work. See, we might win smaller wars and battles, but if you look at our planet in the larger scheme of things, you can see that nothing has actually really changed. This is still very much a slave planet. And that's because up until now, our vision of things has just been far too narrow. We have tended to get overly focused on the battle of the day, and then we take sides in that battle. And that's why the cycle of winning and losing wars just continues on this earth. I mean, some wars have been won and it hasn't really changed anything, and some wars have been lost and it hasn't really changed anything. See, of course, it just depends on which side you're on, but either way, the battles just don't seem to stop. So up until now, I think the main focus has been on exactly that. Like, well, the whole point is who wins and who loses. But now, people are starting to wake up to something else. They're starting to wake up to the fact that fear is the actual problem itself. Fear is the really big picture problem. And that, my friends, is a completely different position to take than the one of who wins and who loses. Understanding that fear, the existence of fear, is the actual problem is a position of clarity, of profound strength, and of a very clear desire to evolve. I mean, think about this. Fear is actually what starts all of these wars in the first place. Now, I want to share something with you that occurred to me recently that could actually portend some very, very good news. Now, one of the reasons that I was so excited to share this with you guys is because I don't know how you guys look at the last year and a half or ever since the end of 2019, but I've found myself feeling really puzzled how it is that things changed so dramatically, so quickly, how this negativity has intensified with such extreme, I don't even know what, an extreme amount of negative energy and control and shutdown. I mean, it happened so fast. And the reason I want to share this with you guys is because I want to share this thing that might actually explain why it's happening so fast and give us a whole new understanding of what is actually could be going on behind the scenes that could be really, really positive. Now, you may have heard me mention Telstar's, what we call our landmark event entitled The Final Elimination of the Source of Fear. And that started as a 2-day live workshop that we did some years ago, quite a few years ago, which initially was channeled with Archangel Michael and one of the beings in Telstar who goes by the name of Mirabai. So here's what occurred to me recently. There was something that would happen in that workshop that could actually be a mirror image of what is happening on the planet today. And if so, this is a really big deal. Now, I want to also mention that Archangel Michael is really the one who created this workshop that we did. He created it in conjunction with Telstar. And I want you to know that just because I think it's a well-known fact that Archangel Michael is all about eliminating fear. So the source of fear refers to a phenomenon in this universe that erupted due to a very bad experiment in creation physics. Now, if you want to view this in very simple terms, the source of fear is the absence of love. Now, love in truth is omnipresent in this cosmos. But when something blocks the experience of that love, you will then experience an absence of that love. See, we should be feeling that love at all times, in every molecule, in every cell of our being. I mean, there should be absolutely no interruption in that experience. See, the experience of the larger love that created all that is by its very nature a constant. It is meant to be an uninterrupted flow of pure bliss and absolute creative freedom. So when the experience of that love gets blocked by that really dumb experiment, then a phenomenon arises that we call the absence. We call it a phenomenon because an absence is, by definition, not really a thing. So the absence itself is the source of fear. It's the reason that fear can exist at all. Otherwise, there would be no such thing as fear. And see, fear is the birthing place of everything that's negative. Anger, war, hatred, poverty, death, and all manner of destruction and control. All of these things are possible only because of the source of fear. So I have to tell you a little bit about how this event unfolded when we did it as a live workshop, because that's how I can explain to you an interesting correlation that I see happening right now on a planet-wide basis that could be really, really amazing. So our event entitled The Final Elimination of the Source of Fear is actually an evolutionary undertaking. See, Archangel Michael actually commissioned Telstar for the main purpose of enacting this particular process. So the purpose of this event or workshop was and is to permanently eliminate the actual source of fear from within the individual participants. Now, this does not mean that the people experiencing such a thing would never ever feel fear again. And that's because our physical bodies are biologically designed for fear. We have been biologically manufactured on a physical level to be slaves who can be easily controlled by fear. That's how our brains and all of our physical systems are structured. I don't know about you guys, but to me, I think it's kind of obvious that the reptilian race of extraterrestrials probably had a hand in our biological design. And who knows what else, because I mean, our brains are just like this weird patchwork quilt of stuff that doesn't even integrate all that well. But that's another story. So eliminating the source of fear has to do with something much, much deeper than just the physical level. It actually serves as an accelerator that accelerates our evolution. See, the source of fear actually produces a gripping factor around our hearts. Now, Archangel Michael has a much larger function in terms of this entire universe, which has to do with eliminating the source of fear on a much wider spectrum than just our one tiny planet. It's about correcting a massive deviation from how things are originally designed to manifest in what I would kind of want to call a healthy universe, which this one really isn't right now. So let's take that big focus and let's narrow it down to how he created the specific event with Telstar specific to our planetary Earth. Because this is the part I want to share with you guys that I think if this starts happening on our planet, we're going to go to a whole new level and maybe very, very quickly. So I want to share with you what would happen on an individual level in the course of this workshop event as a person was going through the process to experience the final elimination of the source of fear, because I'm seeing some dramatic parallels on a planet-wide basis right now. And this is what I want to explain to you guys. So as a person gets closer and closer to having the source of fear eliminated, that phenomenon within them starts to catalyze. And the effects of what I was referring to as the absence will actually begin to intensify its grip on that person's energy. And the absence itself will often begin to surface in that person's experience. Now, this did not necessarily happen for everyone, but it did happen quite a lot. So there was a particular pattern that emerged during the course of this live workshop, which we did for a total of about 6.5 years. And this happened every single time. So we had the first day of the event, which was led by Mirabai, who's part of Telstar, who is she's a very sweet, very beautiful being, but also extremely powerful. And her role was to bring together all of the information necessary to prepare a person's consciousness so they would be perfectly positioned to experience the final elimination of the source of fear. So she developed this communication and eventually literally explained the entire thing and how it got created. And then on the second day, which was led by Archangel Michael, he would take people through an entire, very personalized process that would ultimately lead up to the final process, which would be the final elimination of the source of fear. Now, it was on that second day that people were most likely to feel an intensification of that gripping control inside of themselves as the absence was being catalyzed, just prior to being eliminated. Now, here's why I'm sharing these little details with you guys. Throughout the 6.5 years that I traveled and we offered this event to people in different cities, I was very much aware that the entire earth has this very same problem. And I would always imagine the source of fear being eliminated on a planetary scale. But I just couldn't see it happening at that time because this was a number of years ago. There was just way too much unconsciousness in the collective of humanity. So as I said before, recently I've been thinking about how bizarre the last 1.5 years has been. And I suddenly saw a parallel between what people were experiencing in that event individually and what we are collectively experiencing now on a planetary level. I mean, think about this. We are experiencing a massive intensification of a gripping control over all of humanity with fear. So here's what I'm starting to wonder. And what really made me start to wonder about this was when I began to become more and more aware that more and more people are saying to themselves, you know, fear is our biggest problem. So put that revelation, put that expansion of consciousness together with this massive intensification of gripping control on our entire humanity by the controllers. But let's just take the controllers out of it for a moment because they are controlled by something else. So this gripping control, it's just so intensifying. It's getting more and more so every day over all of humanity. Wouldn't it be amazing if we were actually getting close to the possibility of the final elimination of the source of fear on a planetary level? And what's happening now on our planet is the same intensified gripping that sometimes happens to individuals as the absence begins to catalyze prior to being permanently eliminated. I mean, to me, the parallels are so incredibly striking. And I'm not even sure if I'd be saying this if I didn't also see the corresponding consciousness, as I told you guys, that people are becoming more and more aware that fear is the real problem. See, when this process known as the final elimination of the source of fear begins to take place, the absence itself is forced to the surface and begins to catalyze. It will start to appear bigger than ever before when it was previously completely hidden from view in that person's experience. Now, the great thing about the event when we did it is between Telstar and Archangel Michael, there was such an incredible support and bringing people to such a position of strength and clarity that they didn't have like a really bad experience or anything. It wasn't like people were having really bad experiences. It's just that they were able to witness and see how this thing would begin to come to the surface, but from a position of strength. Now, I see an almost identical process happening on this earth. I say identical in the sense of being parallel. It's far, far more complex, of course, because This is a planet of billions of human beings. But I see a very identical process happening on this earth in the form of a physical manifestation, in the form of the lockdowns, the masks, the control, all of it. And I mean, the utter lawlessness of it all. So is it possible that the absence that has had this planet gripped in a horrible grid of control for thousands of years, is that now being catalyzed in the very same way? I mean, is that why things are so bad right now? Depending on what happens with human consciousness here, we could possibly be on the road to the elimination of the source of fear from the entire earth itself. I mean, if that's true, this is going to be amazing. Let me just explain one more thing to you guys about the source of fear. What it does essentially is its whole intent is to prevent evolution. I'm way oversimplifying it right now because we don't have 2 days to do this video. Basically, when you eliminate the source of fear, what that produces is an accelerated evolution. If that were to happen on a planet-wide basis, I think that would supercharge our ascension process. I mean, it could change everything. But the thing is, it cannot happen without our cooperation. And this is exactly why you've heard me say so many times, if you've been following me, we have to stop validating the existence of suffering. Suffering is absolutely a byproduct of the source of fear, all of this negativity. If we persist in spiritually validating all of these negative experiences, we don't have a chance of ever eliminating the source of fear because we're sanctifying fear. We're saying it's important to us. We're saying we need it to evolve. Guys, we do not need fear to evolve. Do you understand that fear prevents us from evolving? Fear makes our ascension and our evolution as impossible as it possibly can. So if we want to wake up and start to participate in a massive evolutionary event for this planet, we have to start entertaining a massive paradigm shift in our consciousness and in how we look at all of the problems that this planet has suffered from for thousands of years. So the fact that people are realizing more and more that fear is the real issue is truly profound. See, at some point, I'm really thinking that people are maybe going to realize that fear just has to go entirely, that there is no place for fear to ever exist in our world. See, when that becomes a collective revelation, doors are going to open for us that will absolutely blow our minds. See, here's the thing, you guys. We've been asking for all the wrong things. We've been asking for things like, well, hopefully we'll be on the winning side, but it's still a side. See, that perspective, it's fine, but it doesn't actually address the real problem or the real root cause of all the problems. And that's why we never get out from under. But if we were to collectively say to the universe, we want fear gone once and for all and for good, then there would be no more means to control us. This entire planetary nightmare could possibly be over. But as I've been saying so many times, we have to stop validating the existence of fear, pain, death, and suffering. We have to stop all of this religious nonsense, which only serves to preserve the existence of fear. We have to walk away from our previous beliefs of saying that suffering helps us to evolve. It doesn't. See, suffering actually impedes evolution because it gets us completely caught up in survival. It drains our energy and it only promotes more fear. It damages us and it weakens us. How does that help anybody to evolve? See, in order to evolve, we need strength, not weakness. So in the bigger picture, suffering does not contribute anything at all. It just takes away all that is good. So here's what we can do right now. We can say no to fear and we can say no to suffering. We can say that we've had enough and that we are done. That is a very powerful position to take in this universe. I mean, do you realize that that simple statement encompasses the entire spectrum of literally everything that is wrong here? And it even includes the things that are wrong that we don't even see. And that's important too. It puts us in a position of readiness to co-create with the most powerful forces in this universe to truly solve what is really wrong here. I mean, think about this. What do you think the controllers can do with a population that goes completely over their heads and unites with extremely powerful forces of evolution by saying no more fear? We want fear gone. We are done with fear. Fear is no longer welcome here, period. See, in this case, we're not focusing on the controllers anymore because that's always a losing battle. Instead, we are talking about a much higher evolutionary move to eliminate the means of their control once and for all. It represents a complete breakdown of their false sense of strength. See, what they perceive as strength is not strength at all because they can only control us through manipulation using fear. So this would pull the rug out of their sense of total power over us. See, the reason they want to control us is out of greed. And greed is also born out of fear. It's the fear of not having enough. Not having enough power, not having enough energy, not having enough of whatever it is they're seeking. So the controllers are extremely fearful under their cloak of arrogance. Now, I want to go back for a moment to what I was saying about the event that Archangel Michael created with Telstar entitled The Final Elimination of the Source of Fear. I know that his goal was always to have enough of the energy of that event influence the collective consciousness so that it would become possible for people to have that experience without ever even having to do this event. So I do want you to know that I would never want to say or imply that, oh, well, you have to do this event of ours or there's just no other way, because this is actually, this is a force of nature. This is a force of evolution. So it's really about setting the stage, creating an energy that is big enough and powerful enough and strong enough that something can happen on a planetary level. And like I told you guys before, I think the fact that people are starting to realize that fear is the real problem here is just such a beautiful sign of an evolving consciousness, of an expanding consciousness, of a global population that maybe really has finally had enough of this in a way that's going to make a huge difference. Now, what I'm doing right now, I think I told you guys this before, is I'm taking the information from the workshop that we did years back, and I'm updating that. I'm going to put it into an online self-paced course. The name of the course is going to be entitled Ascension Power, Trust the Light Within. And it's going to include the final elimination of the source of fear. The reason we're calling it Ascension Power is because the elimination of the source of fear tremendously empowers your ascension. I don't have it ready yet, but hopefully I will have it ready to launch this summer. So if you want to know all the details, if you're interested in that, I do have a waiting list started. You can get on that waiting list. I'll put a link in the description below, because what we're going to do is we're going to incorporate that information into the ascension process that we're all in. So we're going to sort of update it and incorporate it into ascension and where we are right now on the planet. So if you feel like that's something that you'd be interested in learning more about, you can just sign up on the waiting list and you'll be the first to know when that becomes available. So let me just close with this, just to encapsulate my main point in making this video and why I feel such a sense of a positive change. Okay, there's a couple of things. One of the other things I want to mention is right now, as I'm making this video, I've noticed that there's a lightening up of the energy around this planet. Even though the circumstances look really dire, the energy feels lighter. Something is different. So there's that, and we'll have to see if that lasts or if that's just a window that's not going to always be there or it's going to expand. We just have to wait and see. But there's that. There's the two most important things that I think are happening, as I said before, the fact that there's been such a profound acceleration of control and lockdown and just gripping everyone on this planet in ways that we never even imagined. If that is evidence that the source of fear is actually catalyzing on this planet on a path to being permanently removed, eliminated at some point. Oh man, wow, that would be so phenomenal. And also, remember I told you guys, our consciousness has to match up with that evolutionary process. We have to be co-creators in that, in the sense that we have to be aligned with that process so we can get behind that. So the second thing, like I said, people realizing fear is the real issue here. We can't continue to say fear is a good thing, fear is your friend. Have you ever heard people say that? I've heard that. Fear is your friend. It's like, no, it's not. How could fear be my friend? These are very big things happening right now, and I think there's cause for us to be a lot more hopeful at this point in time. So let's just see where this all goes. Hopefully we're on a whole different track that could supercharge our evolution, completely change our ascension process for the better. Let's just see what happens, and we'll just continue on with this discussion. All right, so I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it out with anyone else who you think would find this amazing and interesting. And be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because I'm here every Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday with all new videos. And with that, I'm sending you loads of love, light, and positive energy. And I so look forward to seeing you in the next video. Namaste.